Amazing twist, single mom's unexpected kiss reveals a hidden mafia boss who desires her love. Sarah stepped into the dim light of the coffee shop, cradling her lukewarm cup like a lifeline. The walls hummed with the chatter of other patrons seeking warmth from the chilling rain outside, but their laughter felt foreign against the backdrop of her weary life. Juggling the endless cycles of night shifts and two rambunctious boys, she often wondered if the American dream was a mirage that had long since evaporated from her reality. Each dawn brought her to the local hospital, where hope was on life support more often than not, and the demands of patience constantly chipped away at her resolve. As she stepped outside, coffee in one hand and her phone in the other, Sarah never saw him coming. The collision was soft, but the impact was electric. Marco had a smile that disarmed her, and when their eyes locked, time seemed to pause. Conversations flowed effortlessly, laced with laughter that lit up the damp air, diluting the weight of her struggles, if only for that fleeting moment. But that blissful encounter quickly escalated into a surprise kiss that ignited a swirling ember of desire within her, an emotion she had scarcely allowed herself to feel since her divorce. Reality crashed down hard when she learned that Marco wasn't just a charming stranger. His ties to a notorious mafia family were a stark warning she could hardly ignore. This man with the warm laughter and tender gaze could threaten everything she had fought for. Visions of her boys at the center of a storm sending black ripples through her mind twisted into a sickening knot. She felt trapped between the thrill of a budding romance and the gut-wrenching fear it instilled. Did she dare to entertain this intoxicating pull towards Marco? Each sleepless night saw her grappling with the implications of a relationship that made her heart race while simultaneously filling her with dread. How could she risk the stability she barely held onto? The hospital's fluorescent lights mocked her with memories of frantic nights spent trying to save lives, holding hands, and absorbing sorrow, the pressure so often felt insurmountable. But Marco had an ambition glowing in his eyes, a yearning to escape a past that refused to release its grip, making her question if she could also find a way out. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as their love deepened, the shadows of Marco's world crept ever closer, whispering warnings that Sarah desperately wished to silence. She often caught the townspeople's disapproving glances, their judgments stinging harder than the rain. What did they know of loyalty and sacrifice, of striving to build a safe haven for her children? These moments of doubt spiraled into questions that rattled her, gnawing at her resolve like a persistent itch. Caught in this web woven from hope and fear, Sarah felt her heart race against the current, an unforgiving rhythm threatening to drown her. The stakes rapidly piled higher, pressing down on her like the weight of her responsibilities. Marco's past loomed ominously, each whispered threat amplifying her agony. When a shocking discovery jolted her world once again, she realized everything she thought she understood about love and family was about to be tested in ways she never imagined. Could she embrace a path so fraught with danger, or would she falter beneath the weight of her choices? The tension that wrapped around Sarah's heart showed no signs of loosening as days turned into restless nights filled with anxiety-ridden thoughts. After that fateful kiss, the fleeting moments of joy were overshadowed by the growing realization of the danger that loomed. She may have felt an alluring pull toward Marco, but underlying that thrill was an unnerving dread, as if each heartbeat was marked by warnings from an unseen shadow. A particularly exhausting night shift at the hospital dragged on as her mind oscillated between thoughts of her boys and the escalating stakes of her budding relationship. Every patient that arrived was a reminder of fragility, the fragility of life, of hope, and of love. Yet, amidst the surgical scrubs and sterile rooms, a strange determination began to flicker within her. Maybe confronting her fears was the only way to wrestle control over her situation rather than letting it spiral out of hand. In the days that followed, Sarah realized she had a choice to make. She could continue living in a cocoon woven with fear, or she could approach Marco not just with her heart but with the sharpened clarity of a woman who had faced adversity. Undeniably, she felt attraction, but it was her resolve that would define the outcome. Outside of the trauma of her work, that sense of purpose became her compass. Determined to learn more about the man who had invaded her heart and threatened her peace, Sarah began to piece together information. New conversations with her colleagues led to hushed whispers about Marco's family. The more she uncovered, the more complex his world appeared, filled with an intricate tapestry of loyalty and revenge, hope and despair. It was during a late-night shift when Sarah first confronted her own reflection in the mirror of her break room. It was a face that bore the marks of sleepless nights and worry, yet also the steely resolve of a mother willing to fight for her family. The moment felt pivotal. She wasn't just a caretaker for patients but also a protector for her children, ready to reclaim her narrative, even if that meant venturing into the unknown. Positioning herself at the heart of Marco's life, she felt trepidation. This would not be a simple process of extraction, it would require delving deeper into the heart of danger. With each encounter, she dared herself to ask essential questions not only about Marco's intentions but about what kind of sacrifice she was willing to make for love. Their next conversation unfolded at a secluded corner of another coffee shop, the ambience thick with unspoken words. Marco had that familiar smile again, one that inexplicably soothed her fears but also sparked her caution. This time, she took a bold step forward. "I need to know what I'm getting into," she asserted, her voice steady, quaking with newfound courage. His expression shifted, sincerity taking over the camaraderie. "You have to trust me, Sarah." "I'm not like them," he replied, pleading eyes searching hers for understanding, but propelling a dozen new questions in her mind. Could she afford to trust him? Just as she was about to respond, a figure shadowed at the entrance caught her off guard. A tall man with a leather jacket looked directly at them before whispering something into a hidden earpiece. Instinct tore through Sarah like wildfire, flaring her defenses. The depth of Marco's world suddenly felt dangerously close. The stakes rose permanently now. The life she knew felt as if it were crumbling under the weight of this new complication, a possible confrontation standing before her. Would she stand beside Marco, confronting the unknown even when it threatened to engulf her? As their discussion hung in the air, tentatively, she realized one crucial thing. This was about more than just love, it was about self-discovery and the audacity to shape her own fate amidst chaos. The time had come to face the choices that lay before her, knowing that every decision would challenge her understanding of loyalty, love, and sacrifice. In that moment, she steeled herself for what was to come. Recognizing that sometimes the most perilous paths lead to the most profound transformations. Would she be brave enough to take the leap into Marco's world, or would she let fear win? The answer awaited, just out of reach. Sarah could feel her heart hammering in her chest as her eyes darted from Marco to the shadowy figure at the entrance. Time seemed to stretch as the man lingered, his gaze piercing, evaluating. She swallowed hard, panic mixing with determination. Each moment gambled her curiosity against her instincts, and she could feel the palpable weight of the choices pressing down on her shoulders. She had always prided herself on being grounded, a woman in control, first as a mother and then as a caregiver. But her world was spiraling, and the unexpected paths twisted around her resolve like a tightening noose. Marco's worlds were colliding, her son's laughter now tangled with whispers of danger. "Marco," she finally said, her voice steadying. "What is going on? Who is that man?" Her heart pounded ferociously, more from the urgency in her tone than from fear itself. Clarity washed over her, she needed answers. Marco shifted, his calm demeanor faltering for a fraction of a second. "He's someone who has been watching me." "It's complicated," he replied, his tone dropping to barely above a whisper. Complicated. The word slithered in like a snake, a reminder of the entrapments she had been unwillingly drawn into. Sarah braced herself. If she wanted truth, she had to extract it from him. "No more half-truths, Marco. What are you involved in?" "Because I need to know." A sharp breath escaped him, a flicker of appreciation for her tenacity mingling with urgency in his eyes. "You need to understand that this goes beyond just you and me. It involves allegiance, loyalty, but what about my boys?" she interrupted, her voice rising, piercing through the fabric of secrets that bound them. What if this affects them? My whole life revolves around protecting them. In that moment, Sarah's bravado felt like a sword drawn in defense of her children, battered yet unyielding. The burden of her maternal love ignited a fierce resolve. She had woven a life of hope around them, and she refused to let that unravel now. Sarah, Marco pleaded. His sincerity mingled with something deeper, an understanding of the stakes they both faced, relationships fraying at the edges. I would never let anything happen to them. I swear. But the sincerity of his words tugged at her guarded heart, muddying her judgment. She needed to think, to analyze every variable. What major implications lay before her? Each thought exploded into cellophane layers of worry: her children's safety, the morality of involvement, her own life spiraling like a kite caught in a storm. Trust doesn't come easy for me, she breathed, words wrapped in uncertainty as the tension thickened. I've gone through so many battles on my own. Then let me show you, Marco urged, his voice lowering as he leaned closer. I want to be part of your fight. I want us to be a team. Those words gnawed at her rationality. Her heart yearned for the partnership she had never dared to hope for. Yet, the reality of Marco's world remained an uncomfortable truth. He was offering companionship wrapped in a complex web of danger. The man by the entrance seemed to lose interest, melting out into the street, leaving Sarah grappling with perhaps the most significant decision of her life. Was love worth the risk of destabilizing not only her life but that of her children as well? As her pulse slowed, an unsettling calm washed over Sarah. She recognized within herself the resolve to protect what mattered most. She had fought battles before, perhaps this was simply another skirmish on the battlefield of her heart. What do I need to know? She asked, the question a steely thread woven into the unfolding fabric of her narrative. Marco exhaled audibly, the weight of her inquiry settling around them. Everything, he said simply, honesty gleaming in his eyes. In that moment, Sarah knew they were standing at the precipice of a wildly unpredictable journey. She was delving into a life filled with shadows, but there was no turning back now. Her path was about to cross into the depths of his world, where love and danger danced ominously together. But as she began to prepare herself mentally for that plunge, another figure emerged from the shadows behind and headed directly toward them. Her heart quickened again. The universe had delivered yet another test, a confrontation impending. Would she hold firm and weather the storm unfolding, or would her courage falter as fear threatened to creep in? The figure advanced, a firm silhouette against the dim light. Sarah felt the tension in the air coalesce, her heartbeat resuming its anxious rhythm. There was an urgency in the way Marco shifted beside her, his posture tense, shoulders squared as if bracing against an unseen force. The man's face emerged from the shadows, sharp features and a confidence that spoke volumes, igniting something primal in her gut. For a split second, she considered retreat, but the thought evaporated as swiftly as it formed. Robert, her late husband, had always taught her to stand her ground in moments of crisis. Hadn't she spent years protecting her boys, pushing through her own fears? This was no different. She was encircled by shadows, but clarity began forming inside her. Marco, she whispered, the urgency of her tone compelling him to meet her gaze. What do I do? You stay close to me, he replied, voice low yet steady. His reliance on her presence steadied her nerves further. The instinct to protect had ignited within her, and she felt a significant shift, a surge of strength. With each passing moment, a sense of purpose emerged, blooming amid the chaos. The stranger halted a few feet from them, unwavering, an inscrutable expression shadowing his face. You must be Sarah, he said, his voice smooth and commanding. An unsolicited chill enveloped her, the way he knew her name hinted at a deeper intrusion into her life that rattled her bones. She wanted to recoil, to shield herself from this assault on her identity, yet something within her urged her to respond. I am, she said, forcing authority into her voice, a mirror of her maternal instinct. The very act of claiming her existence, a role she had nurtured and fortified, alarmed her, as it was an assertion of her newfound resilience. I am Alessandro, he stated. I've been following you and your sons. The sentence hung heavily in the air, its implications harsh and menacing. Each word was a layer peeled back from a hidden agenda, and her heart sank. What do you want? She squared her shoulders, ready to confront whatever chaos lay ahead. No more running, she had come too far. Alessandro observed her, seemingly unfazed by her determination. What I want is simple. Your protection this city, Marcos needs. It's all intertwined. And you, Sarah, are in the middle of it. His words hammered home bitter truths. She was no longer just a mother but a player in a dangerous game. As unsettling as it was, Sarah could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, transformational energy that sparked the edges of her fear into fervor. You want to protect me? She questioned, brow furrowing as confidence battled with skepticism. Why should I believe you? How do I know this isn't a trap? Because you already know that you're entangled in something far beyond your control, he responded. His tone was disarmingly calm, yet laced with urgency. Sarah caught Marco's gaze, seeking reassurance. Instead, his expression was unreadable, lost between tension and trust. It caused a ripple of unease to slide through her, heightening her instinct for self-preservation. Investing in your safety means investing in my own, Alessandro continued, his gaze challenging, probing. And if I'm honest, I have no desire to see you harmed. The stakes are dangerously high, and rational choices matter. This is about loyalty, just as much as love. In that moment, something deep within Sarah resonated. It was her fight for autonomy, her battle for clarity. This man was a challenge, but storming into the unknown echoed her own experience, everything she had endured, the relentless pursuit of stability for her sons. She raised her chin, unwilling to flinch. What's the plan then? Because I am not just a pawn in your game. Alessandro smiled, revealing a predatory enthusiasm. The shift from uncertainty to belonging began to send ripples of excitement through her veins. Was she really prepared to step into this cryptic world where love and loyalty were volatile commodities? Let us establish a partnership, then, he replied, words that hinted at secrets yet to unfold. It was a bonding thread she had found herself seeking, even amid fear. Tension hung palpably in the air, ready to snap. Designed connections of loyalty demanded exploration, and in a world where threats loomed, Sarah was prepared to forge ahead. Was commitment to this intricate alliance the answer, or would it deepen the peril she faced? The impending choice loomed as the shadows elongated around them, pushing her toward a precipice of irrevocable decisions that promised both peril and hope. Would she risk further for the possibility of protection, or would her instinctive caution hold sway? And as she prepared to navigate this labyrinth, she sensed a revelation stirring what might the depths of her own courage uncover. A sense of trepidation lingered in the air as Sarah faced Alessandro. This man, a harbinger of chaos and yet an embodiment of opportunity, stood ready with a proposition that could unravel everything she had built. The word partnership echoed in her mind, tinged with both uncertainty and an inkling of excitement. Could she really trust him? Her instincts screamed caution, warning her of the risks. Yet, a flicker of curiosity ignited within her, drawing her closer to this dangerous precipice. Partnership? She echoed, scrutinizing his expression. What does that entail exactly? Alessandro leaned forward slightly, eyes sparkling with intent. It means we work together. You provide the insight I need into your world, your boys, your concerns. In return, I offer protection, resources, and possibly more. You will not have to face the shadows alone. The weight of his words pressed against her. She had long been the sole protector of her household, shouldering burdens alone. The thought of relinquishing control sent a wave of trepidation through her. Could she surrender any part of her autonomy? Training her sons to be strong, to navigate life's challenges, had been her single-minded mission. But this partnership was different. It felt like a negotiation of her identity. Why me? What makes me so special? She asked, a hint of skepticism threading through her voice. That he crossed his arms slowly, assessing her anew. You fought through grief, loss, and the unknown. You're not a victim, you're a survivor. It's precisely that resilience that draws me to you. In Amelia's eyes, you see a potential that many likely overlook. Amelia? The mention of her middle son caught Sarah off guard. How did he know anything about her boys? The growing implications made her feel cornered, yet that sense of urgency was intoxicating. Knowing about my son doesn't earn you my trust. True, he nodded, conceding her point. But in this world, connections are critical. You want the best for your sons. So do I. Protecting them means navigating the complexities of this city. Together, we can chart a course, one that leads to safety. The prospect of safety resonated deep within her. In previous years, every decision she made stemmed from a place of fear for their well-being. Now, she had an opportunity to shift that narrative. Safety, it's what I've fought for. But what happens when you decide you no longer need me? His smirk offhandedly dismissed her question. I don't intend for that to happen. Relationships are built on mutual benefit, Sarah. Loyalty is a two-way street. I promise you, if you stand with me, I won't let you fall. The cunning resolve in his eyes unnerved her, but they were also lit with a determination she had rarely encountered. Could this defense be as much a lure as a promise? Still, the chambers of her heart yearned for connection, tinged with a wild curiosity about the strength he seemed to wield. But if I say yes, she pressed, what is to stop you from betraying me? What I'm asking is, what is your endgame? I never said I was without my own motivations, he replied, a hint of admiration lacing his voice. I need a protector as much as you need one. In our entwined fates, growth is inevitable. His admission stirred apprehension and something she couldn't quite offset thrill. A world of alliances and betrayals, enfolding intricacies that enticed her to become a player rather than a spectator. In her heart, a faint shimmer of audacity sparked to life, eclipsing her inhibitions. Then show me the way. Let us see if you can back up those words. I'm willing to explore this partnership, but know this, it's going to be on my terms. There was a brief pause, and they exchanged a glance that held both challenge and promise. Her voice had dipped into a world of negotiation, an escalation where she refused to be simply an accessory. The parameters of her influence were shifting, and the thrill sent ripples through her. Alessandro's demeanor shifted, something akin to respect flickered in his gaze. Very well, Sarah. Now, let us outline the first steps. As they launched into conversation, her mind danced with questions. Could she balance the line between trust and caution? What hidden layers of her own capabilities awaited discovery? Yet amid the pact she felt was forming, the tantalizing uncertainty loomed larger. As they navigated this uncharted territory, the realization washed over her. It was not just about survival anymore, it was about reclaiming her life amid chaos and darkness, and deep in the recess of her thoughts, a new question emerged, one that threw her all back to the beginning. How would she confront the reality of what lay ahead when the shadows held as many secrets as there were dreams she dared to pursue? Sarah sat on the edge of her kitchen chair, her mind racing as she processed Alessandro's words. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mixed with the old wood of the table where she sat for countless hours, poring over her plans and dreams. Only now, she was entangled in a game far more intricate than anything she envisioned for herself or her boys. As she heard Alessandro describe their partnership in more detail, the stakes felt all too real. He painted a vivid picture of the rewards that could come, of the advantages she could secure for Amelia and her other sons. But each enticing word was tainted with the bitter taste of risk. Could she really maneuver through this world of undercurrents and hidden agendas while keeping her offspring safe? Tell me about these resources you mentioned, she pressed, sharpening her tone to signal her resolve. She wasn't about to become someone's pawn. Information is my currency, Alessandro replied, leaning back in his chair, fingers steepled. You will gain access to networks, people of influence, anything that helps keep your family protected. But I will need your insight, the knowledge only you possess of your neighborhood. Your enemies can easily become my enemies if this partnership takes off. Her heartbeat quickened as she absorbed the implications of his words. Trust was a scarce commodity in her life, she'd learned that lesson. Yet here she was, contemplating a partnership that could stretch her beyond her comfort zone. The question loomed larger than before: who was she becoming? What if I do this and it backfires? She murmured, uncertainty creeping into her voice. Alessandro leaned forward, his eyes fixed on hers with an intensity that demanded attention. That's where your instincts come into play. You've already survived the worst life has thrown at you. This isn't about simply existing anymore, Saraceno. This is about taking back control, about stepping into the light instead of living in the shadows. The flicker in her gut transformed into a charging flame. Control, something she thought she had when she buried her husband and took on the weight of the world. Now, the idea of a shift in her self-perception felt electric. Could she be more than a protector? Could she become an architect of her future? I'll require time, she stated, feigning confidence while her mind raced through the logistics. I want to strategize this carefully. A sly smile crossed his lips. Take all the time you need. Just know that the world won't wait for you to make up your mind. Tension hung between them, both thrilling and unnerving. As she navigated this landscape with Alessandro, she could not deny the growing intrigue he inspired. What lay behind that guarded demeanor? Was there more to him than a mafia figure draped in mystery? She caught herself wondering how deep his ambitions reached. You mentioned your sons, he pressed on, clearly interested. How would they fit into this situation? Are you willing to let them become players in this game? The thought startled her. She had shielded Emilia, Anton, and Marco from the darkness surrounding their lives for too long. Introducing them to this dangerous world frightened her, but ignoring the possibility meant diminishing their chances for a different future. Not yet, she said, surprising even herself with the firmness in her decision. They must remain oblivious until I figure out a safe path forward. An admirable choice, Alessandro acknowledged, his respect for her growing clearer. But the truth is, they might already be drawn into the periphery of this world. His admission laced her with dread. What if they were already targets because of their mother's choices? The air thickened as she imagined potential threats surrounding her family. She had focused so long on protecting their innocence that a new storm loomed above her. Maybe I'm already in deeper than I realize, she said quietly, the fear penetrating her resolve. And that realization is where growth begins, Sarah, he replied, his tone a reminder of the volatile balance she must now navigate. As they began discussing their next steps, she felt an exhilaration creeping under her skin. The partnership would undoubtedly demand more from her than she had anticipated, but it was a doorway into realms of power and influence she had never known existed. Yet as the conclusion of their conversation approached, questions knotted in her mind like razor wire. What consequences awaited those who crossed Alessandro? Would she gamble with her family's safety on this high-stakes board? Her resolve solidified as she registered his lingering gaze, a peculiar energy coursing through them both. She wasn't merely entering uncharted territory, she was becoming something unrecognizable. With each syllable exchanged, Sarah asked herself one thing: could she truly lead her own life, or would she become entrapped in another's design? But as she prepared to step into this new chapter, one thought pierced her like an arrow, a haunting truth: the moment she crossed that line, her past would shadow her every move. How would she harness the power unfolding before her without succumbing to the darkness that trailed closely behind? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows across the room as Sarah sat on the couch, meticulously reviewing notes she had scribbled throughout her meeting with Alessandro. The coffee pot stood empty in the kitchen, abandoned for the moment as her mind buzzed with disbelief and ambition. Who was she becoming? The stakes were heavy, and the weight of her potential transformation pressed against her chest. Each word from Alessandro's mouth echoed, wrapping around her thoughts like serrated barbs. Taking back control, he said, a mantra edging closer to reality. She felt the urge to cling tightly to her role as protector, the familiar cocoon she had woven around herself and her boys. But those defenses were eroding. Each passing moment with Alessandro drew her deeper into the turbulent waters of risk and possibility, and a flicker of a new identity beckoned from the depths. The fear that had once paralyzed her began to shift. Should she use her resources, her innate understanding of the neighborhood, to claim her agency? The thought electrified her. She turned to her sons, reading their expressions and their lives through a new lens. They were not mere innocents. Anton's curious gaze held hunger for adventure, Marco's withdrawn nature murmured of suppressed strength. Could their involvement signal a means for growth, for resilience rather than vulnerability? As the night deepened, shadows elongated across the room, drawing her thoughts into darker corners. She pulled out a pen, crafting lists of potential allies, contacts, and the motivations of those surrounding her. Each name triggered thoughts of trust and betrayal. Would all the connections bring her sons into some grand design she had yet to fully comprehend? Alessandro's phrase lingered, "Your enemies can easily become my enemies." The duality of partnerships made her heart race and her pulse quicken. It was one thing to safeguard her family, it was an entirely different matter to actively wage war. Her thoughts shifted to the conversation's core, trust. Was Alessandro a tempting ally or simply another beast cloaked in charm? The silk ties of his words inspired intrigue, but like a moth circling a flame, she could almost sense the heat. She felt exhilarated yet terrified at the idea of transformation. The next morning, with renewed intention, Sarah decided to venture out, not just for groceries but to learn the rhythms of her surroundings. The neighborhood breathed a language of its own, one that was often lost on her. As she walked among familiar streets, she picked up whispers of knowledge, the chatter between barbers, the nuanced nods of shop owners. She saw etchings of past stories in the cracked pavement and peeling storefronts. Each encounter crystallized a sense of purpose. She wasn't only a mother, she could be a sommelier of community and life, tasting the bitterness of hard truths along with the sweetness of opportunity. Her mind shifted from passive observer to active player. The boys watched as she returned home, brimming with vitality and ideas. She crafted a plan, carefully mulling over how to involve them in small ways, cultivating skills and strength without unveiling the deeper darkness. But moments of enlightenment sometimes come with perilous revelations. Their familiarity with the neighborhood brushed against dangerously thin ice, the sense that they, too, could be embroiled in tangled webs of loyalty and conflict without their consent. That evening, at dinner, she shared plans of workshops at the community center, something that could teach the boys trades while offering an oasis for camaraderie. What she didn't share was the way her heart raced at the idea, the flickers of inspiration conflicting with her protective instincts. As she watched her boys discuss the prospect of learning something new, laughter bubbling between the three of them, a surge of determination washed over her. A balance was close at hand, but how to safely navigate this potential duality of existence, protector and player, felt daunting. The boys' innocent optimism could easily lead their mother toward unforeseen pitfalls. It was the realization of this danger that lay heavy in the air, thickening with tension. But in that moment of hope and potential, a thought gnawed at her. What if her decisions didn't just reshape her future? What if they sent ripples outward, endangering not just her but the safety of all she held dear? Despite her resolve, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was one misstep away from descending into chaos. Preparing her boys for a world they couldn't yet understand felt like juggling explosives while blindfolded. As questions danced in her head like shadows, one glimmering possibility illuminated the undercurrents of fear. What if this path offered more than mere survival? What if she could rise to command her destiny and rise from the ashes of the past? But the haunting reality lingered. Shadows always creep in when the light grows brighter. Would she commit to a path that might shatter the delicate balance of family and safety even before she had glimpsed its full potential? The stakes were rising, and with them, the realization that she was not just creating layers of power, she was flirting with becoming a power in her own right. In that spiraling momentum, a single question emerged with sharp clarity. What price would she pay to reclaim what was lost, and could she bear the consequences when the time came for her to confront the truth? The next morning, the sunlight crept through the curtains, illuminating the chaos of the previous night's thoughts. Sleep had offered no escape from the tumult, instead, it had intensified her resolve. Sarah awoke with a sense of urgency, compelled to strip away the layers of uncertainty and lay the foundation for the life she envisioned. The stakes of her revelation demanded action, not hesitation. Clarity began to emerge in her mind. The time had come to separate fantasy from reality. She sipped her coffee while strategizing her approach. Would she pursue allies and resources in the neighborhood, or would she dive deeper into the murky waters of Alessandro's world? Each choice carried a weight that pressed against her chest as if tethering her to the past. Yet, a newfound drive propelled her forward. The need to shield her family grew stronger with every passing day, and with it came the realization that her role as protector could evolve into something more potent. Determined to engage her sons in a meaningful way, she decided to redouble her efforts. They needed skills that would not only empower them but also ensure their safety in a landscape fraught with hidden dangers. She envisioned workshops that taught self-defense, conflict resolution, and practical skills, all framed within the gentle guidance of their family values. The ambitious plan unfolded in her mind, intricately woven with the hope that they could navigate this potential treachery together. Alessandro's words echoed in her psyche as she pondered how deep their involvement might go. Your enemies can easily become my enemies. A sharp realization emerged. Perhaps, it was not only about the enemies they would face but also about discerning friend from foe. She would need to foster a connection with those who could either support their growth or jeopardize it. This recognition sparked both excitement and fear within her. Taking a deep breath, Sarah gathered her sons to share her ideas. The living room buzzed with angst and curiosity as Anton and Marco faced her, their expressions revealing a clash of eagerness and uncertainty. I want us to learn together, she began, her voice steadying with every word. I've come up with a plan: workshops to provide skills and knowledge that will keep us safe but also help us grow. Shooting? Or grappling? Anton sprung forth, excitement punctuating his tone as he bounced forward. Not everything will be about that, she interjected, gauging Marco's more reserved demeanor. Life teaches us to adapt, to understand others, too. Think of these skills as tools, not just weapons. We can arm ourselves with knowledge and community, not just fight. Marco's eyes darted between her and Anton, searching for a balance between their reactions. Sarah felt a swell of hope. Their youthful naivety interplayed with an instinctual understanding of their surroundings. She crafted a picture of support in her mind, imagining them enveloped in a network of safe, nurturing alliances, a fortress built from shared experiences. As the day unfolded, Sarah contacted a few trusted neighbors, hoping to find people willing to contribute to her vision. She didn't shy away from exposing the potential for danger her plans might entail. Each discussion bubbled with possibilities, solidifying her position as an emerging leader within her community. Suddenly, she was not just a single mother, she was an architect of change, yet, doubts lurked in the shadows, rarely allowing her to bask in her triumph. What if these newfound connections spiraled into deeper entanglements? With every commitment she made, fleeting moments of fear slithered through her thoughts. Was she getting in over her head? The evening held its own revelations. As she finalized arrangements, a text chimed in from Alessandro. Are you ready for our next step? The implications behind his words sent her heart racing. What did he want to discuss, and at what cost? Was she prepared to dive further into the murky enterprise of his world? As she sat there, uncertainty coiled tightly in her gut, she realized that she was at the edge of a precipice, ready to take a leap into the unknown. Would her choices pull her closer to safety, or would they plunge her and her sons into darkness? As she pondered her next move, one question, filled with trepidation and excitement, loomed larger than the rest. Was she truly ready to embrace the shadows alongside the light, or would that decision irrevocably fracture the semblance of peace she envisioned for her family? The next day unfolded like a canvas awaiting the brushstrokes of her determination. The sunlight streamed through the windows, bathing Sarah in a warm glow that felt like armor against her lingering anxieties. Her mind raced with thoughts of her plan, the workshops that would empower her sons, and the newfound alliances she was building. Yet, uncertainty loomed over her, a specter that whispered of potential dangers hidden beneath these intentions. needing clarity, she decided to venture into the depths of Alessandro's world, not as a novice but equipped with an understanding of her own strength. She recognized that she could not simply avoid the shadows, she had to learn how to maneuver within them, to harness whatever power they offered without succumbing to darkness. Inspired by this outlook, Sarah began her day with organized intent. She searched for resources that would enrich her workshops, local facilities, experienced instructors, and even materials for crisis management, all essential pieces for building her family's defenses. Each connection she forged chiseled away at the fear that had trapped her in the past. She was cultivating a narrative where courage held the pen, allowing her to write a story of resilience. By afternoon, she found herself seated with a local martial arts teacher, an old friend from her college days, discussing the potential for self-defense classes. Their conversation ignited memories of carefree days and laughter, grounding her in her mission while simultaneously fueling her determination. "We're not just building skills, we are building trust," she emphasized, her hands animated in the air. "I want my sons to understand the value of community as much as the importance of being able to defend themselves." "I like what you're aiming for," he replied, a glimmer of appreciation in his eyes. "But just remember, knowledge can be a double-edged sword. They need to know when to apply these skills wisely." His words lingered in her mind as she walked home, a reminder of the complexities she was threading through the lives of her family. Knowing what to do, and when to act was as vital as any physical ability they might acquire. She was not merely preparing her sons for confrontation, she was preparing them for life. As evening approached, a tension began to coil in her gut, the anticipation of meeting Alessandro once again, the man shrouded in mystery and danger. The text he had sent was a summons, and while part of her resisted the pull, the other part craved understanding. What lay behind his invitation? What secrets could she unveil that would navigate her deeper into his world, yet extricate her family from harm's way? With each step towards their meeting spot, she grappled with her thoughts. Could she utilize what she discovered about Alessandro to protect her family further? Was she prepared to tread the treacherous waters of power plays and hidden motives to forge a path that could either empower or endanger them all? In the meeting, Alessandro was charismatic but layered with nuances she couldn't quite articulate. His very presence commanded a mix of intrigue and wariness. She watched him, noting the way he moved, how his eyes searched hers for understanding. "I'm glad you decided to meet," he said. "We need to discuss your position, it's more critical than you might think." "I'm learning I also need to ensure my family's safety," she responded, daring to place her vulnerability on display, testing his reactions. Alessandro leaned in, his voice low and firm. "Your family has much at stake. You must learn to navigate the space between light and dark if you wish for them to stay safe." The weight of his statement settled heavily over her, fanning the flames of determination mingled with apprehension. What lay ahead felt like a maze filled with traps, and each decision would matter more than the last. As the meeting concluded, Sarah left with more questions than answers. Was her growing alliance with Alessandro the ticket to securing her family's future, or would it open doors she couldn't close, with her? Resolve solidifying, the night echoed with lingering fears and ambitions, unanswered until she took the next daring step on this unpredictable path. What cost might her exploration into Alessandro's world demand? And how deeply was she willing to immerse herself in this tenuous dance of power and courage? In her heart, she understood that the answers would not come easily. Sarah's journey into that darkness was just beginning, and the shadows would soon require her to choose between simpler solutions and the complexity of newfound power. As dawn broke, spilling light into Sarah's kitchen, a new day unfurled with the promise of transformation. She stood before the window, staring out at the familiar street, yet everything felt different. The workshops she envisioned weren't simply about teaching her sons self-defense, they were about reclaiming agency both for herself and them. The decisions made in those past days had forged a resolute path. Sarah could feel the weight of responsibility slipping from her shoulders. She was no longer just a single mother battling the world, she was a force poised to shape her destiny, intertwined with the shadows and the intricate dance of alliances. The memories of sleepless nights and relentless fears began to fade into a backdrop of determination. She called her sons into the living room, where a whiteboard stood ready, covered in ideas and plans. "Today, we're starting something new," she declared, her voice steady with conviction. Their curious gazes propelled her forward. "I want to teach you skills that can empower you and keep you safe." Anton's eyes gleamed, while Marco leaned in, eager for the adventure. "Are we going to learn kicks and punches?" Anton burst out, excitement seeping into his voice. "Absolutely. But, learning to walk away from conflict is just as important," Sarah explained, feeling a swell of pride as she watched their enthusiasm. She envisioned them becoming more than just protectors of the family, they would become active participants in their own lives. As she outlined her workshop plans, self-defense, conflict resolution, and community building, excitement lit the room. It was the first step towards an empowered future, a colossal leap away from the shadows and fear that had gripped her heart. And it wasn't just about protecting them, it was about arming them with knowledge, wisdom, and the strength to navigate their burgeoning world. With the community center secured as their training ground, Sarah felt exhilaration bubble within her. She was stepping into a new role, not just as a mother but as a leader, an architect of resilience in her children. Each connection she made in the neighborhood further solidified her resolve. She was building a coalition, a network of support. Word spread as parents expressed interest in the workshops. The community began to come alive around her initiative, a tapestry of faces sharing common goals of safety and empowerment. For the first time since losing her husband, Sarah felt understanding cultivate between herself and her neighbors, a shared burden, purpose, and hope. But confronting her past, the duality of her situation, and the still looming figure of Alessandro was unavoidable. Each interaction with him challenged her resolve. For the first time, she recognized the complexities inherent in their partnership. It wasn't simply about him guiding her into darkness, it was about mutual growth, respect, and forging her path within the shadows she had once feared. One evening, they met at a quiet corner of the coffee shop, the murmur of conversation surrounding them, wrapping them in a cocoon of shared secrets. "Your influence is growing," Alessandro remarked, leaning forward, impressed. "But you must continue to sharpen your instincts. The webs you weave will entail danger." "I'm ready," she replied, her confidence firm. "I'm shaping my own future." She could see acknowledgement bloom in his eyes, a mentor recognizing the evolution of a once timid ally. Yet, as discussions deepened, shadows hovered. "Your boys are becoming more involved. Ensure they understand the stakes," he said, his voice a mix of urgency and admiration. "Let me tailor their involvement," Sarah insisted, determination coloring her voice. "I will not expose them to your world until they're able to handle it." Alessandro nodded, respect behind his piercing gaze. "Control is essential. Remember, being involved means accepting consequences." As the evening unfolded, a stark realization crystallized within her. If she wished to retain her autonomy, she must guide the narrative, deftly moving between the shadows and the light. Trust. Empowerment. Control. Every encounter taught her another facet of her own resilience. Days turned into weeks, and the workshops began. Anton flourished, his laughter echoing in the community center as the boys learned vital skills. Marco, on the other hand, approached these lessons with quiet determination, keeping a watchful eye on his brother. It became clear that they were not just absorbing knowledge, they were evolving, learning to navigate life's complexities. With each passing day, Sarah understood that her growth was not merely personal, it was collective. For her sons, she was not just a mother anymore, she was a figure of strength and hope. They were becoming empowered in their own right. The laughter they shared reflected resilience as they embraced challenges together. Yet, amidst the successes, shadows flitted at the edges of her awareness, each reminder of Alessandro's world present in her thoughts. He had become both a guide and a ghost in her existence. Could she keep her family safe while simultaneously engaging this powerful alliance? As she lay awake at night, thoughts spiraled through her mind. Just how much of Alessandro's world could she embrace before it began to unravel her carefully woven life? In subsequent meetings with him, she began to ask pointed questions, unearthing hidden layers within his world. The stakes rose as she understood the potential entrapments laid before her. Yet with every inquiry, her confidence solidified. She was no longer just surviving, she was thriving. One fateful evening, she faced Alessandro with a steely gaze. "Let us find common ground. I'll navigate my family's path, but if I'm to align with you, I need assurances." The look he gave her, an appreciation tinged with intrigue, sparked life within her. "Trust is a delicate balance," he replied. "But together, we can construct a future that defies treachery." Their dynamic shifted from a mere transaction to a partnership rooted in mutual growth. Sarah held fast to the reins of her narrative. Through determination, authenticity, and her refusal to be merely a pawn, she charted a course of her own. She had become a leader in her community, recognized for her strength and resourcefulness. The shadows surrounding her were no longer threats, they were catalysts for growth. As she wrapped her head around the transformation she'd undergone, her heart swelled with satisfaction. She was a mother, a caretaker, and now a formidable force in her own right. Sarah had conquered fear, weaving her desires and ambitions into a tapestry of empowerment. And in that moment of profound realization, she smelled the sweetness of success and fulfillment. Today was not merely a reflection of her past, it was a distinct recognition of what she had achieved and what lay ahead. The sun set over her neighborhood, casting long shadows on the pavement, but she no longer feared them. Instead, she walked forward, ready to illuminate both her life and those of her children. She had emerged from the dark, and she couldn't shake the feeling as she breathed in the evening air that this transformation was just the beginning. If you felt empowered by Sarah's journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for this channel. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below your thoughts and theories about Sarah's incredible journey and what you think might come next. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the inspiration.